Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED. May the 6th is our date. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you today. We're both real estate brokers with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, and we get together with you once a week here on KMED to talk about all sorts of real estate-related issues and topics through 8 years and about 400 shows. One of our favorite topics is always about Property Management Week, and today, Joe, we've got it in the house. I love that, right? We've learned, and our listeners have learned more about property management.
Yep.
Whether the do's and don'ts, the good and bad of it, isn't it?
And I should frame the show by saying Pete and I decided
Long ago
in our 10-year careers now as brokers that we would never, ever entertain the notion of being a property manager, because in Oregon you can hold both licenses, and not these two.
But because it's hard to do.
It's a whole different animal.
And I admire people that do
Yes,
that, like our guest today.
Exactly.
Anyway, Danielle Roberts is the owner of Sterling West Property Management, located in the Medford Center in the John L. Scott Building. In fact, so nice to have you here with us.
Hi guys.
How are you doing? By the way,
We're doing great.
May is here?
Yes, busy season is upon us.
Yeah.
Spring and summer is our crazy time. So
It's amazing to me how much the rental market follows, I don't know if they follow each other, but the housing market and the rental market really follow each other.
What are the
Interesting.
pushes on the rental market and timing of school or?
the push is summer, really.
Yeah.
About June, everybody starts looking for a new place. They try to move and get into the right school district and do, So
Makes sense, yeah.
June is really June. Actually, what I've learned, oddly, is I've tracked it in the last 5 years since I've been in the business, and August is the absolute busiest month. It's the worst month.
Yeah.
So I think it's like the push before September school
It's before
starting.
school starting.
People
People
want
are
to
moving. And yeah, it really is. Hillary Rufai is also in the house. Hillary's at Sterling West as well. Hillary, you've been here before. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Is the market? I saw in this week the Mail Tribune had with little stories about the Southern Oregon rental housing market. And the story was the rental vacancy rate is 1.7% in Jackson and Josephine counties, which is an improvement from a year ago where it was 0.9% of vacancy rate. So, wow, we've come up about a half a point.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's really solving the problem or issue dealing with the issues, is it?
No, our vacancy rate it'll get down there. Give it a couple more weeks.
Yeah.
So you continue to see that.
Yeah, and just as we were discussing, it's really hard to track that number accurately because personally I feel like it's more of a turnover rate. That vacancy is actually just in between tenants, because what we've seen and with our properties, things are rented before they even become vacant. So, to say it's a 1%, I don't know what that is. Maybe properties that are overpriced. There's really nothing sitting out there being vacant that we've seen.
Because it makes you wonder, are they properties that are hard to rent or have location issues, or what is it that keeps those few hanging in
Here's
there?
something else that I learned, and the reason that I stopped. I used to really quote the vacancy rate all the time. What I learned is that, no one's ever asking me what my vacancy rate is, so they're not accurate numbers because not all the property management companies are being
right.
Polled.
I think it represents 5,000 units. It's still a lot of units.
Yeah.
And
but it's not all the units.
Yes, and that's not. And that meant 55 units were vacant out of that 5,000.
Yeah. Wow.
That's why you have.
That's why we have a crisis.
All right, tell me about what's that doing to prices and rent prices here. How are you dealing with that, and what's going on with that?
Yeah, well, prices, they continue to climb. There's such a demand that, it's a supply and demand issue, as we'll get to later, but that's what's driving prices. So, when you get those owners that are wanting to provide housing for people at a normal, affordable rate, but still getting a good rate of return, that's wonderful. But yeah, the sky's the limit really with rental prices right now.
The prices go up because of that.
And the rentals and even the existing home sales and new home sales, as people are looking to buy homes, there's just such a shortage of inventory that it just forces your hand. It really makes for
everyone wants to live in Oregon.
Yeah, that's really true.
Thank goodness we're already here.
Yes, right.
And like the rental housing market, it follows again because if you have a house that's for sale and has been for sale for a long period of time, it's either too high price or it's not in very good condition, right? Otherwise, everything is, like you're saying, the rentals are going quickly, so are those types of housing. So if you see something a long time, it's either too high or it's not a very good spot, right? It needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of love, I suppose, more than anything. So so the prospects then are not... what do you tell people when they call you, or what are you doing with people? I'm sure. What are they doing?
I mean, it's so frustrating for these poor applicants, these people looking for a place to live. They all come in and they ask for a copy of our current listings. You know, they're looking for a paper copy, and we don't even have one because they move so quickly. We just direct them to the website. We tell them that they need to, if they see something they like, they need to apply for it right away, pay the fee. That will hold their spot in line. Then they can look at the property and make a decision if they want it or not. If they don't want it, we'll refund their fee. But the only way to ensure that they would be in a line is to get in there, apply for it, and pay the fee.
Yeah, you have to be so proactive. I mean, there's just, and most management companies don't even answer their phone. I mean, people are so surprised when they call us and they're like, oh,
you
hello?
answered. You answered. But your news for them is generally not very good, though.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's not.
I don't know how do I don't know how you get out of this or what we deal with this. And where are these people going who don't have place? I guess you're living with friends, or I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what they're doing.
What are they doing in the interim comes to mind.
Yeah.
And then people who just are not have access to computers, the internet, or computer literacy, that puts them in a tough spot too. And we take it for granted, but there are a lot of people that just have not yet, in this day and age, had that be part of their life.
We do have, we personally have an iPad that we'll give out to them so they can look at the listings and they can do a paper application
really
and we can input
helpful,
it for them. You know, obviously it's not our favorite thing to do.
No.
It's more work for us, but
and
we try to.
They just feel so vulnerable that they're just kind of in crisis mode, and so being sensitive to that too. However busy we are, they are going through something as well. So kind of slowing it down, explaining the process has been really important.
Yeah.
Boy, but that could overwhelm you as well, and in a short order.
Do you see additional units coming on around the area, or are there being some built duplexes? Are there being some landlords buying other properties because there's not much to buy in terms of turning them into rentals right now either? So
we do have people that we are working with currently that are getting their approvals. I think the one that in particular I'm thinking of already has approval to build an apartment complex, which will be good. It's like a 55
units.
We do have some investors that we work with that are constantly looking for new properties. A lot of them will, when we know that one of our owners are selling, we'll let them know this is coming up. So, we do have people that are still, trying to get, but I know personally, trying to find those places that are at an affordable, something you really want to buy that makes sense, that pencils, you're not really finding them.
If I had $3 to $5 million just to do that, I'd be hard pressed really to find the right spot and the right with the infrastructure and the amenities that you'd want around. And
exactly,
it's not just something you can just take the money and throw at it and fix it.
Yeah, you got to give credit to those investors because they really do work hard and work with the city and do what they need to do to get these buildings built. And that's the thing is landlords have such a bad rap, but there's a lot of great landlords out there, and there's people that are building housing to provide that service. And so
are most of the people that come see you, are they families looking for housing? Or individuals or couples, or are they kind of going into like apartment living?
All
or tell me who it is. So it is across the board.
Everybody.
Okay, so it's not just one. I thought maybe one group, but it isn't. I thought that maybe you see
everybody's looking for a place to land.
Well, I'm wondering again. Last week when we talked about tiny houses in here with Sean Maroney and Alex Aronson, who was an agent with us. I mean, he's a young guy, and he looks and says, I see neighborhoods of tiny houses. I see lots of this kind of thing in the future, but they think differently than we do. And those are going to be maybe rental properties because they're affordable to get and build kind of things and have them done.
Yeah, that's
do you see changing landscapes as well in the future?
I think that for sure at this point, especially with all the new kind of legislative laws that are coming up, something has to change. This isn't what they're proposing now. Isn't going to be the fix, and so we're going to be continuing to try to work with it and find the fix. And I can see tiny houses. I can absolutely see that happening because, we have to do something.
We're really limited for urban growth boundary space, and we're having an influx of people moving here. And we need people to move here to support all those people that are moving here and all the services that are going to need to be provided.
Here's another thing you can do with those. Say I'm a landlord and I own a property with a large lot on it. Maybe I could add an additional dwelling unit to it, a tiny home already done, built, custom-made home, add that to the property, and maybe get a second rental coming off that thing. If all these governments are talking about infill Phil,
Right.
there are options that we can do to help ourselves.
I mentioned
but
that.
we seem to, as you say, we strangle ourselves all the time. We can't deal with it.
If you put a not too tall railroad caboose in my backyard, that would be about the tiny home level, and it would fit back there just nicely. I'd live in it, and I'd rent out the big house.
Well, you
Exactly.
guys, well, Danielle and Hillary, you're talking about dealing with families and young couples and families and stuff. I deal kind of mostly with older people who are trying to get out of these places
Yeah.
and trying to get into a smaller
Yeah.
place, and not necessarily a place like Brookdale or the independent living places for them, but tiny homes or the alternative, more alternative
leveled
housing.
out with
Single
aging in
levels.
place, designs in mind. That's a great solution for some of their needs as well.
But we don't do it.
And still
You
have
know,
the
we don't do it.
independence and the friendliness of your communities and a little yard to take care
Yeah,
of and
exactly.
a little something. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a change coming in the property management business. You're going to see probably more of that and more ADUs and things like that. Well, whatever it is, we're in a bind.
Yes,
I mean, the rental
definitely.
market is no different than the regular housing market. Low inventory. It's a buyer's market in. No, it's a seller's market in real estate. It's kind of a
Landlord's market. Yeah,
market
absolutely.
in rentals.
It is.
And I did I'm working really hard in the Eagle Point area right now, as you know, Pete, and just did a little search back 6 months in this bedroom, bathroom size, price range we're looking for. The sellers were getting 99.5% of their listing price.
Really?
And I had about 17 good comps that were in there. And definitely, I mean, if your house is in good condition and it's priced right, you're really going to get your business done.
Yeah, Eagle Point is really hot right now for
It
rentals
is.
too.
Is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a big spot.
Yeah, it's really kind of roaring to life. And as I've been digging through the neighborhoods, I see houses going up everywhere
Yes.
out there. And so a lot of things that have been planned, just patiently waiting, are starting to spring back to life. That's good to see.
It's
And what,
really good.
and what are the houses going up out there? Large 3 and 2s, right?
Yep.
Most of them. See, that's
Primarily
the thing.
3 and 2s.
That's what's going up.
Some
But that's
smaller-
not what's needed.
Yeah,
mostly.
some
You see, that's
smaller
what's interesting.
4s and 2.5s because they know that they've got to accommodate some bigger families because it's a
Eagle Point is
thriving
where you
school
can-
community,
Right.
and they've got some good things out there as well.
And it's an
So-
affordable place. You can still live in
Yeah,
an affordable place
exactly,
there. So it doesn't really matter. We're in a mess. And but the bottom line for I think listeners is if you're going to be interested in that, as both Danielle and Hillary, you say, you got to be proactive. You got to be doing it, and it's a pain in the rear. But if you really, you can be successful. But you got to stay with it, right?
You really need to treat it like a job a little bit. I mean, you just can't hesitate. You need to check out. All the property management companies have different inventory. A lot of people have they have misconstrued ideas about that. They think they can walk into one and get access to everything in the valley.
right.
That doesn't
Like
happen.
you can with real estate.
Exactly,
You cannot
yeah.
do that
You cannot
with
do that
rentals.
with rentals.
Right.
I've never understood the rental business
Yeah.
not wanting to
There's
pull
probably good
that like
reasons
that.
for it.
Anyway, but
Yeah,
that's,
that would be
that's another
great,
topic.
actually.
Isn't it? Yeah, that's another topic. Okay.
But the only thing we have to offer is what is the people we do business with, the owners that have come to us and contracted with us to rent out their homes. So you really have to Google every property management company in the valley, and you have to go to each website and you have to get onto their listings.
site and
I
look.
mean, you just
Yeah.
and then if you see something you like, don't call, wait for someone to call you back. I mean, apply for it, get in line.
Fast.
Should I come down to your office and do that in person? I mean, is that
It's not going to do you any.
that's not going to do you
it's
any
really
good?
not gonna
Okay.
Not going to
All
put you
right.
in front of the line, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not going to. It's going to waste your time. You might as well
Okay.
just get online if you have access.
And if you
apply.
don't, you know someone who does
You
or
can
who can
fi-
help with
yes,
that.
you can.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
find someone.
And like real estate, you got to be ready to pull the trigger.
I have
Yes.
grandkids.
Right? You can't hesitate or you're going to
That's
lose.
it.
Yes,
Yeah, you got to get in
absolutely.
front.
You know, boy.
I have grandkids, so Instagram, all of that. I'm up to speed.
doing
Anything
good.
I need, I just ask them.
There you go.
But one of the things that's been as the legislature meets, and I remember writing a little story on that on our website, it was that the real estate industry holds its collective breath whenever the legislators meet in Salem. Because I had lunch this week with Tina Grimes, who's the executive director of the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, and we were talking about that, how intense it is 2 years, and how the OAR, how they gear up for these lobbying sessions and the kinds of things that go on in Salem. Because real estate and the environs, which is rentals, whatever, is such an easy thing to tax. And they come out and we're going to do it, and we're going to do it. We're going to keep pushing to tax it. So there's a bill before the legislature. We've got a break coming up here. It's House Bill 2004. You may have heard about it. It changes the rental laws, right, across the state,
Yes.
right? I mean, it just changes everything, right?
Yes.
I mean, and it's
It's
dramatic.
going to affect landlords, affect tenants. It's going
affect
to
property management companies,
Yes, it's
affect
going to
real
affect
estate,
everybody.
It really affects you guys a lot, doesn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah.
And they say, and I haven't read, I'm not that totally up on it. That's why you two are here. We're going to talk more about that. But it seems that when you get to this point, who makes that decision? I mean, who?
On my opinion,
No. Okay. Yes.
it's a knee-jerk reaction from the Portland area who have enough of the legislatures and control of our state legislature to force anything they want on us. And this feels really good. This feels like we're helping our renters. But there's an inherent
It doesn't help
misunderstanding of the unintended consequences that will come attached to
I
this.
agree with you, Brett.
It doesn't help
Or
them.
Joe.
Oh, okay.
Either one.
We'll continue that after this break. We're with Danielle Roberts and Hillary Rufai from Sterling West Property Management today on the Real Estate Show, talking all sorts of things about the rental properties and property management. We're coming right back to the Real Estate Show right after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on KMED. May the 6th is our date. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys, with you. Don't forget, you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshoworegon.com. We invite you to do that. A lot of good shows there. Great guests, as we usually have. And, of course, all of our listeners and Joe and I, we get free education out of this whole thing, which has been a great fun, And today, once again,
As the
we learn.
executive producer, I gotta say you've lined us up a pretty consistent lineup of shows where we really have covered some great ground and some great topics. And the thing I like the most is we get together once a week, and boy, every week there are new twists and turns and things that are happening that our listeners really need to know about.
Well, one of the interesting things happening that is out there that early in this legislative session is what you've heard about say it again. It's no eviction.
Terminating no cause eviction.
No cause eviction. God, no cause eviction.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. You've heard about this bill. It passed the House by one vote. It went to the Senate earlier this week. They had hearings around in the Senate, and they have to vote on it yet. It's it's just riling everybody up all over the state, right? I mean, everybody on all sides of this thing. So Hillary and Danielle, all right, tell me why is this thing such an emotional kind of bill? Why is it drawing so much attention? What does it actually do?
Well, with anything with rentals or real estate, as you guys know, it's always so emotional because you're dealing with people's lives, their homes, their investments, their nest egg. But basically, the summary of the bill, and we're going to kind of get into the fine details, but it prohibits landlords from terminating month-to-month tenancies without cause after the first 6 months of occupancy, except under certain circumstances with 90 days written notice and payment of an amount of equal to 1 month's periodic rent if you own more than 4 units.
Okay,
there's all these little caveats to everything, but that's one of them.
layman's
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah,
Yes.
I feel better about that.
I know everybody's like gripping, and then they're like, "Oh, okay."
All right. Let's go down to the basic of that. A tenant, you get month-to-month tenancy, all right, versus a lease, right? Now, just explain to people about the differences because some people may not know that.
If you're in a lease, you have a fixed term. You say you do a 6-month lease. You get in January. Your lease ends in June. That's a certain kind of, that's a lease.
Okay.
A month to month, and usually every lease term it moves to a month to month unless either party asks to leave.
Okay. Okay.
It'll automatically go to a month to month, which just basically means you're not in any kind of lease. It means when you're in a lease, your rent can't be raised during the lease term.
Right.
When you're in a month to month, you can give a 30-day, you can give a 90-day notice now to raise the rent. So that's the two basic kind of differences of that.
What do you mostly use?
We have both. We really have a mix of leases and month to month, depending on the owner's situation, the tenant situation.
In general, I think owners prefer a term lease. That way they don't have any turnover. They know that that's kind of a guaranteed rent. There's not going to be that expense for vacancy. Tenants like it too because they know that they're not going to have to move.
And the rent won't be increased.
Right. So it provides some stability. So when things like this start happening and the rent increase law that went through, people start getting really afraid and saying, well, I want to do whatever gives me the most flexibility as a landlord goes. And so that kind of creates some more tension. It's just volatile all over the place. People just want to protect themselves and it gets kind of crazy.
When would a landlord use a no-cause eviction? I was trying to think of I suppose if I sell the property, I
Right,
guess that
that's
would
the
be
most
one that
common.
I
That's a
would.
big one.
That's a big one. Do landlords do no cause evictions other than that, or do you see that often, or why is it such a big deal in this bill?
Well, I'll tell you that we have two ways. Well, we have three ways to, get a tenant out of a property if you want them out.
Okay.
A no cause eviction is just because I want you to go. Maybe I want a family member to move in.
Okay.
Maybe I want to move back in myself. Maybe I want to sell it. Whatever. No
Okay.
reason. A for cause is
A lot
very
more.
hard to do.
I was going to say that's a totally different thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've made so many rules around the for cause that I think a lot of times the landlord will try to fall back on a no cause because it's easier. So in a
Okay.
for cause, it's if somebody is violating the rental agreement, you give them a 30-day notice.
Okay.
But the law says they have 14 days to cure.
Okay.
So if they take care of the problem in 14 days, let's say, you've got a pot farm in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
You have 14 days to remove the pot farm, and then you won't be evicted. Well, what's the tenant? Most tenants at that point remove the pot farm. We do our inspection, eviction goes away, and then they put the pot farm back.
Okay.
So, it's not the best,
Okay.
So a lot of times if a landlord sees that somebody is kind of a problem tenant, let's say, it's
All
easier
right.
for them to do
So
a 60.
now if I do it under this, say this does pass, and I do it today under a no cause, that I have to then as a landlord pay the tenant to move, correct?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, if you have more than 4 units, so if you're an investor, then yes, you do have to pay that 1 month. If for any reason you are violating this proposed law, there is a penalty of 3 months rent that you would potentially have to pay the tenant if you were in violation in any way. So, not only are you proposed with, okay, I have this tenant that I'm, having whatever issues with, I'm going to have a loss as far as maybe I'm not getting rent or they're paying this, that, or the other. Then I'm going to have repairs. Then I'm going to have vacancy. Then I have to re-rent it. So this is all a huge expense. Then I have to pay them to relocate. It just kind of goes on
in the
and
long
on.
run, if they'd been a good tenant, I wanted them to stay.
Exactly.
I want my house
Right.
rented.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's not the ideal situation. It's just, for anybody's business, which, landlords, this is their
Sure,
business.
absolutely.
They need the freedom to decide what they want to do with their business, under obviously fair housing laws.
I don't know if it struck anyone else's ears like it did mine. When I hear that you could actually pass legislation to tax landlords to move,
Right.
Sure,
to
you can do
move
anything
their
you want.
tenants out.
To move a bad
When I
tenant,
hear that, I'm
you
shocked.
know?
Then when I hear the 3-month
Right.
caveat, now I'm appalled because that doesn't seem like the role
And that's
government
what
should be
they-
in.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
trying to fix something that they're not probably qualified to fix.
That's where
Exactly.
they had started, and then it's been scaled back, but they had started with the 3 month is what the compensation was, and then we're down to 1 month, but the penalty now is at the 3 month.
See a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
All right. Now, a fixed term tenancy, that's just a lease, right?
Correct.
So what does it mean if they say that it would require under this law all fixed term tenancies to continue indefinitely solely at the discretion of the tenant? What does that mean? I mean, if I have a year tenant, if I have a year lease, it says at the end of the year, it goes for another year automatically if I'm the tenant and want it that way?
Yeah, basically, it's saying that if you have a year lease, it will automatically roll over to a month to month. So currently, at the end of a lease, when we know a lease is coming to end, if the owner would like them to go, we can give them a 30 or 60-day notice
Okay.
saying at the end of your lease, we don't want to renew.
Okay.
Okay. So now they're saying we cannot give that notice anymore. It's going to automatically roll into a month to month unless the tenant contacts us and says, I would like to get another lease. And then the landlord is required to give them a lease that is comparable to the same time frame as the first lease. Because, and I think this is the
so
repercussion
interesting, yeah.
of the 90-day notice, the rent increase.
That was passed earlier.
Yes,
Yeah, right.
this is the repercussion of that because what was happening is everybody was finding the loophole. So instead of
They
giving a
were
90-day
raising rent,
notice, we would just re-sign a lease for like 3 months. I mean, this is what people would do. Somebody's in the home, they've been in there for 6 months, they're renting at $1,250. Owner wants it to be $1,300. They don't want to give a 90-day notice. So they sign a new lease for 3 months, getting them up to the right price. So this is the repercussion of that law.
Jeez, and I've heard people say that they've read where people have just gotten large rent increases. I mean, we people know people here in town in Medford who've had these huge increases that notice, here's the envelope and here's your here's your rent increase. That's what started a lot of this too, didn't it? That
yes.
we got to have control of it because it's out of control.
And that's,
this is what we're left with here is this, which really exacerbates the problem further. It doesn't solve it.
It's not good for government to try to control the free marketplace.
All right.
Really
we got a break coming up here again, but
healthcare comes to mind.
Yeah.
We're trying. I mean, I'm a very proud American. I just need to quantify that. I'm just not happy with some of the directions, some of the
frustrating
tax that we're taking. You know that's supposed to be on behalf of our citizens.
Yeah.
Well,
in Oregon.
I don't know what you're why are you surprised at this?
Oh, I'm not.
I mean, it's been going on for forever.
And so I would just encourage our listeners. Let's look for solutions that are not just of this nature.
No, let's make a law and everybody will just follow our law because we are kings. You know, I wish I could do that.
We know what's
control my life, control everything. But boy, it really has impacts on the rental market for landlords. Listen to what
of course, it'll never affect the people that make these decisions. They're set for life.
Yeah, they're not doing any of this.
Yeah,
okay, the real estate show got a break coming up. We're coming right back with Danielle Roberts and Hillary Rufi from Stiller & West Property Management coming back after that. Real Estate Show continues here on KMED. May the 6th is our day. Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you. Boy, we're on May the 6th, working to ending the third busiest real estate month of the year. I don't know if it's going to be true this year, Joe, because in the real estate housing market, the regular real estate market, sales are down, 17% in the first 4 months compared to a year ago. Isn't that something?
There's got to be some.
Well, all right. Why do you think that is?
There's got to be some really interesting dynamics.
Low inventory. You think about that there is just not a lot of inventory when you show properties right now, and so the sales have declined overall because of that. At least that's the rumor. I guess that's true. It makes sense to me. I don't know if do you or not, but anyway.
At the start of the show, we were teasing the listeners to come back next week to hear that. So you gotta,
well, that's today.
So
next week, that's old news by next week.
Pete just broke.
That's old news. That's old news. Hillary Rufi and Danielle Roberts from Sterling West Property Management are in the house with us today, talking about property management and the latest legislative bills regarding properties and renters and rent controls and things. Now, one of the things that goes on with that bill, which is the reason the Oregon Association of Realtors and why so many people are opposed to it, and I understand that. Okay, so this is the four things, and you guys tell me what you think of them. Rent control hurts the very people it's supposed to help. True or false?
True.
True? All the way through?
Absolutely.
Even though they say that we're helping you, they're not.
It's long-term effects, and what happens when you do a rent control, and this is seen, in other cities in the U.S., is, owners start getting squirmy and thinking, okay, well, if I'm only allowed to do this much in this amount of time, I'm going to,
do it every year.
I mean, there's a lot of owners who haven't done a rent increase in 10 years, if the market doesn't allow, or maybe they'll just do it if their taxes go up or, some legitimate reason. But, it's just one of those
now
things.
Everybody will just be on a schedule.
On a schedule to raise and go.
It's a guarantee
all right.
now. Yep.
Another way, capping profits, okay, discourages investments in multifamily units, I guess, or you can add just rental units. Is that true or false?
I'm sorry, can you read that? You lost me.
You cap profits, I guess is what it is. So to a landlord.
Return,
So it discourages investments in this property. Is that true?
I agree. I think it is.
Oh yeah, definitely. That I think is what scares me the most, is deterring people from investing in property and really fixing the root of the issue, which is the supply and demand.
I've got clients who we're always looking for multi-units, or can we add something to it? Can you add things to it?
We want
and
to
this discourages that.
Yeah.
Well, and even more so, people who are currently landlords, even of my own owners that are in our inventory, say, if this stuff passes, we'll just sell. We won't rent anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
The outcome of any investment is a profit. This is not a bad thing.
Exactly.
This is what helps our neighbors to refurbish themselves, and these are the people that come in and take these homes on and make them presentable and give us life to go forward
Nobody's
again.
Nobody's working for free.
Well, you kind of answered the third one here, which is existing units will be converted to condos, and developments in the pipeline will be changed to owner-occupied units.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Yes.
Well, it would be just very discouraging because Joe goes to all these hearings at the planning departments and stuff, Jackson County, the city of Medford. There are developments and there are stuff in the pipeline, aren't there?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if they continue, or if this thing, what happens by this bill, what happens with those units.
Even at the legislature, Sal Esquivel and some of the other Southern County representatives had the DLCD in session with them, and there was some really robust discussion about because they're pointing everything to the Jackson County RPS, the regional problem solving. That is the first one that was done as kind of the model going forward. There's actually some really interesting discussion about what they learned, and it seemed like it was being heard a little bit, almost to our advantage that it started down here, but that RPS is the model, and that's where we're going to get our development, where we're going to get our growth, and the opportunity to infill and to add some units.
Well, these governments are going to have a chance to do this, and they need to step forward with, from tiny houses on down to easing restrictions to allow people to do this and allow you to make some money on your property and your home. There's nothing wrong with that, and not going to just destroy neighborhoods and things like that. And there's some areas that it's perfect for. And
ADUs,
boy, we got to help our neighbors here because we're really in a lot of trouble in housing. You have the best stat of all. How many people in Oregon are renters?
4 out of 10 people in Oregon are actually renters.
40%.
No wonder there's pressure on our
That's
rental
shocking.
market.
I didn't think it was that high. That really surprised me.
Yeah.
When you think about that, there's 4 million people in this state, and 40% are renters.
Yep.
This kind of stuff that we're talking about really comes home to roost and really comes home right to you.
And all those renters have landlords and people that are involved in keeping that property available.
40%.
Wow.
A lot.
And think about that. And this is the thing about that. We always talk about encouraging home ownership. I mean, we do this. The average wealth of a renter in this country is around $5,500. The average person who owns a home in this country is about $170,000. That's a huge difference.
Absolutely.
But look how many of us are trying to rent or can't rent and may be able to buy now, but there's no inventory to buy. So, boy, you talk about we're in a real pickle.
Yep. Absolutely.
I don't know.
and investors and buyers of real estate that are open to having a rental, like they really should be inspired because this is such a need for our community, which is a no-brainer. But it really is a great investment. You're providing a home for somebody. You are going to be making money in the long run. I mean, the market is just going up and up. Part of what they've written into this, which I don't think goes far enough, because somebody developing an apartment complex is thinking 30 years down the line, not 5. But they have written in there that rent cap is going to exempt new residential developments for 5 years.
Okay.
So, but I feel like that needs to go much further, because 5 years goes by like this, and then you've got to still be getting return on that investment.
And part of the reason this bill has come forward is because rent increases in Oregon, Hillary says, are some of the country.
Yeah, there was actually a study that Lending Tree came out with, and the highest rate of rent increases in the nation is in Oregon. Number 1 being Bend, which, as we discussed, no one's surprised by that. And then Portland and some surrounding towns around there. Medford, not yet. It was on that, the top 4, but we're getting there.
But we're also one of the most desirable places and one of the most moved to places for the last 3 years now.
I was shocked.
And all these people are moving here. We need to put up signs at the border. Hey, you better bring your tent.
There's no place.
Nowhere to live.
We
got
need more
no place to live. We got no place to go.
Big wallets. That'll do it too. But we've got a lot of people that don't have that wherewithal that are going to.
And
we need them here to meet our growth.
Absolutely.
Well, they're coming, and we need to prepare for them. And again, alternative types of housing are what we need, not just 3 and 2s at $1 million or certain
There's
levels.
not
We got to
an
have
unlimited
a
amount of
whole
developable land out there where
No.
we can do this. Is very tightly controlled and very well thought and planned 20 to 50 years in advance.
Yep.
And we got to make the best use of it.
Absolutely.
All right, Hillary, Danielle, we're out of time. I appreciate you getting
Good
hold of
job.
you.
Fast.
So, I'd say have people go to your website or visit you, but you don't have a lot of units around. So again,
well, we
check
still have
your
a
website.
lot of, we're actually kind of revamping our website in the next coming months. So our website is a great place for resources for owners and tenants. SterlingWestRentals.com.
All right, well, that's the place to go.
Really good information.
Good luck
Thank
to
you,
you,
ladies.
ladies.
Thank you.
I know they're following that rental law, so I'm sure we'll hear more from that from you next time we get together as well. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show here on May the 6th. For Pete and Joe, hey, you have a great weekend, everybody. God bless you all, and we'll talk to you next Saturday right back here on KMED.
You've been listening to The Real Estate Show on KMED Radio, presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, along with John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon and Bank 34 Mortgage. For guest contact information, download our free app, or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshoworegon.com. This show is produced by Table Rock Productions. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only Real Estate Show on KMED. And thank you for making The Real Estate Show part of your weekend.